Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, how are you doing today? I hope you're well and safe. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Thank you, as always, for supporting the channel, the Sangha. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Those two things really help get the search results to find us so our Sangha can continue to grow. Yeah? And let's just get into, we are well into the 6th chapter of the Lankavatara. And we are in, gosh, I don't even know if I can, L is 40, right? 40, 50, 60, 70, section 73. It's not important. Okay, at that time, our representative student, Mahamati, did I mention this yesterday in the video? I've been thinking of perhaps investing some time in creating a series on the Mahamati problem. Because I think we all have it. At any rate, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, made a request of the emancipated one. This isn't different, a request rather than, well, yeah, but his request then comes in the form, same old form. Please tell me. Please tell me, Sugata, concerning the distinguishing aspects of the 5 Dharmas, the 3 Svabhavas, the 8 Vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness. Well, isn't that what we've been doing all this time? Okay. By recognizing, Mahamati goes on, the distinguishing aspects of the twofold egolessness, I and other Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, we students here, will be able to establish those truths while effecting a continuous development through the various stages of bodhisattvahood. It is said that by these truths we can enter into all the Buddha truths, and that by entering into all the Buddha truths, we can enter even into the ground of the Tathagata's inner realization. So, of course, Shakyamuni obliges. But you see, Mahamati is just, this is what we do. We are so locked into identification, physicality, this, not that, mine, not mine, yours, not mine, not yours. This collection, database, warehouse of being as the illusion of having, whereas being is a moment-to-moment realization. Wow, all this. Wow, all this. All this again, all this changing, everything moving. Isn't this exciting? But no, we can't be in that moment. We have to constantly be dragging the past collection of data along with us in order for us to feel like a me, an I, an identity, right? Yes, that's useful in samsara. We're not trying to get rid of that. We're trying to get rid of our reliance upon it, our stuckedness about it. because our mind is so focused on that collection, it's never being living. It's just constantly nurturing and manifesting and manipulating that collection of identity. Do you see? It's not that that collection is bad in and of itself. It's that we treat it like it's the now. And it isn't. Habit energy. That's what that's about. And Mahamati thinks that by cataloging, inventorying, defining, elaborating on everything in that warehouse, that will lead him to the inner realization of Buddhahood. But it's not in the warehouse, Mahamati. Step out. Simply can't do it. So let's see how Shakyamuni approaches him once again. Mahamati says, I will tell you about the distinguishing aspects of the five dharmas, the three svabhavas, the eight vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness, like I have so many times already. That's my insertion. The five dharmas are name, form, discrimination, correct knowledge, and suchness. So that runs the gambit, doesn't it? And again, the reference to the Nidana. Not to validate the Nidana, but just to say, we've covered this. Name and form have to pre-exist in order to discriminate. You can't discriminate if you haven't already identified stuff. But that identification is, shall we say, the solid physical forms of energy. We're not thinking about energy. We're not thinking about formations. We're thinking tree, rock, you, me. Very superficial form. And we're naming it, which is part and parcel of how we discriminate it. Yeah? So those first three, really obvious. And because they're identified as dharmas, always remember, dharma is a process. It's not a teaching. It's a realization of what we might call insight rather than teaching, right? Shared. But what we share is this finger pointing at this process, dharma. So there's a process of naming. There's a process of identification, discrimination. There's a process of form. But we're not thinking about the process. We're thinking about the result. He's been talking about seeing this slippery difference as critical to our enlightenment since day one. But the Mahamatis, they miss that. They just, yeah, but this I can hold in my hand. It's real. But the process that made it so is also real, perhaps more real if you just focused on that more than the result. At any rate, moving on. So after discrimination, we have correct knowledge and suchness. Correct knowledge is including what I was just saying, that those are the result of formations, not in and of themselves popping into the reality. And if you have correct knowledge, understanding, then you see those same three name, form, discriminations as ephemeral, temporary, moment-to-moment processes of being, instantiations, sparks. Yeah? So there's the five dharmas, yeah? When these are thoroughly comprehended by the mendicant or the practitioner, they enter into the course of the Tathagata's inner realization. Obvious, right? Where they are kept away from such views as eternalism. If you understand everything's moment to moment, then how can you conceive of things being eternal? Although you might consider the process eternal. So let's go on. And nihilism, realism, and negativism, and where they come to face with the abode of happiness belonging to the present existence as well as to the samapati, the tranquilization, the quiescence. But Mahamadi, as the ignorant, do not understand that the 5 dharmas, the 3 svabhavas, the 8 vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness, together with the external objects which are regarded as existent and non-existent, that duality, that form, all these are no more than what is seen of the mind itself. They are given to discrimination, but it is otherwise with the wise. He's just talking about that incessant samsaric mind, that mind of instantiation. We're so entangled, perfect word, with the physicalness of life that we forget that it's a product, it's a temporary instantiation of a much larger process of which we are. That everything is. And from that perspective, all of the stuff becomes ephemeral. The mind's ability to understand the process can supersede the mind's desperate attachment to hanging on to the database. That's where the suffering is. It's in the mind. And it doesn't have to be, because that's a condition, a tendency, a habit, energy. That's part of the process. We just need to shift. We don't need to exterminate it. We need to shift away from that focus. And then there's a great release, isn't there? Emancipation, liberation. So Mahamadi, of course, jumps in. How is it that the ignorant are given up to discrimination and the wise are not? The very definition of ignorance in Shakyamuni's, and it's a translation, but for lack of a better word, the ignorance doesn't mean stupid, does it? Look it up. Ignorance simply means not aware, not known. If you're not practicing Buddhism, or you're not practicing quantum physics or theory, or if you're not investigating the actual process of life, the way things come to be, then why would you know? How would you know? Better question, yeah? It just means you're ignorant. You don't know. This is what the bodhisattva life is all about. Searching for ourselves to know that wisdom, and influencing others to be compelled toward knowing. Not force-feeding them. Look, you need to work on your Buddhahood. What? Right? But if your life radiates something intangible to most people, but either they may admire you, or they may see you as something of an example in different situations. Something about you makes them feel aspiration. No more than that. Just, there's something about that person. When she walks in a room, I just feel like I want to know her. Or I want to understand, where does he come from? What makes him who he is? How does he influence a room? Is it because of what she does? Is it because he knows? I just like flies coming to light, or carbon dioxide, right? And that influence is enough. And we can provide more and more of that influence as the curious develop their seeking mind, yeah? So that's what we're talking about. Ignorance, so just they haven't developed that seeking mind yet. They're too busy monitoring their warehouse, inventorying and collecting and having, right? So what does Shakyamuni say? Mahamadi, the ignorant cling to names, ideas, and signs. Their minds move along these channels. They are in samsara. As thus they move along, they feed on the multiplicities of objects and fall into the notion of an ego soul and what belongs to that ego soul, and cling to salutary appearances. As thus they cling, there is a reversion to ignorance, and they become tainted. Karma, born of greed, anger, the manipulations and one-upmanships and backstabbing and working around and politics. That's what anger is in... It's not really, to a Westerner, that's a very misunderstood word, but to us, anger is violence, right? In Buddhism, anger is violence of a mental sort, not a physical sort. Do you see? So greed, anger, and folly is accumulated. So from ignorance, you can do a lot of stupid stuff. Ignorance isn't stupidity, but ignorance can make you act very stupidly, yeah? Because you don't know any better. How often have you heard that mimetic? As karma is accumulated again and again, right, the energy of life, which is ongoing, the process is being fed this lie, this misinterpretation, this constant avarice for, is feeding into the karmic freight train. So that's not a good influence. It's not affirming of life in its full potential. It's only affirming of the attachments, the things that are keeping you away from the full manifestation of life. And that karma building, that energy formed into those obstacles, not good, not life affirming, right? Their minds become swathed in the cocoon of discriminations as the silkworm, and transmigrating in the ocean of birth and death, things exist, things are not, they do, they're mine, not mine, that duality, they are unable, like the water drawing wheel, to move forward. The water drawing wheel, right? A wheel in the stream that's spinning. It's a wheel, it's spinning. But it's not going anywhere, right? Good analogy. Good one, Shakyamuni. And because of folly, they do not understand that all things are like a dream, Maya, a mirage, the moon in the water. And they have no self-substance to be imagined as an ego soul and its belongings, that things rise from their false discrimination, that they are devoid of qualified and qualifying, and have nothing to do with the course of birth, abiding, and destruction, the process of instantiations, yes? That they are born of the discrimination of what is only seen of the mind itself. It's not real, it's your construction of it that you're making into a real thing, and That's why you're suffering. And assert that they are born of Ishvara, time, atoms, or a supreme spirit, for they follow names and appearances. Mahamadi, the ignorant, move along with appearances. Right? There is no atom of Sylvain, or Tamara, or Mahamati. We are made of atoms, certainly, but atoms are ephemeral, energetic instantiations, and they collect to make molecules of and DNA, mitochondrial or otherwise, cells. Everything ultimately, we've discussed this 1,000 times, it's just innumerable manifestations of different energy combinations. And that's our expression of living, of life. But we want to tie this life to something concrete, something unchangeable, something identifying. That's the ego. But the ego is, it's a mirage. It's a construction of the mind. This is what Shakyamuni continuously repeats. And Mahamadi's like, yeah, but what's it like? What's it look like? Define it. If I could just build a warehouse of terms and words and ideas about it, I could do it. No, it's not in that. And Mahamadi is like, what do you, he's really struggling, yeah? So, Shakyamuni is going to break it down. Mahamadi, by appearance, is meant that which reveals itself to the visual sense and is perceived as form, and in like manner that which, appearing to the sense of hearing, smelling, tasting, the body, and the manovijnanas, is perceived as sound, odor, taste, tactility, and idea. All this I call appearance. So those first levels of consciousness, eye consciousness, oral consciousness, smell consciousness, right? Buddhism identifies them as consciousnesses because they're processes, sense organs that accumulate data. There it is. There's the engine of samsara, built in. It's no wonder we're so admired in it, yeah? Mahamadi, the discrimination is meant that which names are declared, and there is thus the indicating of various appearances. That's a black chair, that's a blue sky, that's a white cloud. Saying that this is such and no other, for instance, saying that this is an elephant, a horse, a wheel, a pedestrian, a woman, or a man, each idea thus discriminated is so determined. Boom, it exists now. I labeled it. Mine. Mine in construction of identifying, yeah? Mahamadi, by right knowledge, is meant when names and appearances are seen as unobtainable, owing to their mutual conditioning, there is no more rising of the Vijnanas, for nothing comes to annihilation, nothing abides everlastingly, and when there is thus no falling back into the stage of the philosophers, the Shravakas, Palataka Buddhas, it is said that there is right knowledge. When you understand that everything's just a temporary manifestation of an ongoing process, then all those other ideas, they're still there, but we're no longer entangled in them. Mahamadi, by reason of this right knowledge, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva does not regard name as reality and appearance as non-reality. The duality breaks down. and everything becomes the same expressions of the same process. Right? When you wave a sparkler in the air, do you identify each spark from its location to identify its source, its reality? You just enjoy the sparks, right? When erroneous views based on the dualistic notion of assertion and negation are gotten rid of, and when the Vijnanas cease to rise as regards the objective world of names and appearances, this I call suchness. In other words, not annihilation. It doesn't go away. It's just that you understand that everything is in motion. Everything is time, space, expression of potential. Mahamadi, a bodhisattva Mahasattva who is established on suchness, attains the state of imagelessness and thereby attains the bodhisattva stage of joy. When the bodhisattva attains the stage of joy, he is kept away from all the evil courses belonging to the philosophers and enters on a path of supra-world truths. When all the conditions of truth are brought to consummation, he discerns the course of all things, starts with the notion of Maya, and after the attainment of the noble truth of self-realization, he earnestly desires to put a stop to speculative theorizations, and going up in succession through the stages of bodhisattvahood, he finally reaches the stage of the Dharma cloud. Cloud. That's funny, I used that a couple of videos ago. After being at the stage of Dharma cloud, he reaches as far as the Tathagata stage of Tathagatahood, where the flowers of the samadhis, powers, self-control, and psychic faculties are in bloom. You finally get it. You're living in it. After, I think she's trying to sing as she does that. You okay, Chloe? After reaching here, in order to bring all beings to maturity, he shines like the moon in water, with varieties of rays of transformation, influence, perfectly fulfilling the 10 inexhaustible vows he preaches the Dharma to all beings according to their various understandings. As the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Mahamadi have entered into suchness, they attain the body which is free from the will and thought constructions. You live life in the manifestation, expression of your karmic train, life-affirmingly, contemporaneously, unperturbed, unentangled in identification. You exist then without limit, fully. That's what we chant about. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I want that release. I want to be in this life amongst everything as a constant expression of the manifestations that are my life. Unabated, unattached, unmired in the warehouse, containing innumerable warehouses, without having to know what every item in inventory is. Just a witness, a participant, an influence with all these other minds to lead them to this beautiful, joyful, mental experience of the Dharmas. All of them. This Dharma. This process. This energetic, kinetic momentum that my self mind, my emergent sentient mind can experience, influence, participate, be fully immersed. This like a cloud, Dharma cloud. Because why do you say Dharma cloud? Because Dharma's process, as I said, but cloud is an inclusive mentation on substance. Substance, there's no annihilation of it. It's just that it's now what they call in physics a field, a cloud potential. Potential doesn't stop being potential, and it doesn't stop expressing its incredibly various manifestations. They're just expressions of potential. Ongoing, moment to moment. Again, Mahamati, Mahamati, more questions. Are the three svabhavas to be regarded as included in the five dharmas? What the hell? Or as having their own characteristics, complete in themselves? What? I don't understand. Why is Mahamati so determined to, okay, I understand all the dharmas are processes, but what about these other things? Don't they stand outside of what you just said? What? Are you not listening? Are you that stuck? Maybe sometimes we are. Maybe sometimes we need to keep asking these questions and getting the same answer with various words and explanation to finally go, I guess there are no differences. Gosh, there has to be differences. How do you know and I don't know? There's a difference. No, you're just being stubborn. You're hanging on, right? The three svabhavas, the 8 vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness, they are all included in the 5 dharmas. Duh! Of these, name and appearance are known as the parikalpita, the false imagination. Then Mahamati, discrimination, which rises depending upon them, is the notion of an ego soul and what belongs to it. The notion and discrimination are of the simultaneous occurrence, like the rising of the sun and its rays. Mahamati, the discrimination, thus supporting the notion of self-nature, which subsists in the multiplicities of objects, is called the paratantra, the dependence on others, the attachment. Right knowledge and suchness, Mahamati, are indestructible. And thus they are known as the prajnishpana, perfect knowledge. Prajna, right? Parinishpana, sorry, I said that wrong. Further, Mahamati, by adhering to what is seen of the mind itself, there is an 8-fold discrimination. Behavior, basically. This comes from imagining unreal individual experiences as well, appearances as well. When the twofold clinging to an ego soul and what belongs to it is stopped, there is the birth of the twofold egolessness. Mahamati, in these 5 dharmas are included all the Buddha truths and also the differentiation and succession of the bodhisattva stages and the entrance of the Shravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Tathagatas into the state of self-realization by means of noble wisdom, of a knowing detached from the entanglements, an observer, a witness to. And then we go into the next section. So I'm going to do each section as an individual video because, truthfully, each one of these is quite dense, isn't it? Dense with information, dense with thoughts, dense with understanding how our mind is so... The formations of our consciousnesses themselves are about formations, but they tend to identify, make permanent. It's the mechanism of life, of our physical existence. But constantly Shakyamuni is trying to get us to realize that our mind isn't a physical, it's not a part of that physical existence. It's an emergent property that affords us a unique observatory to have it all by being it all in every single moment without being dragged into not being by entanglements, attachment, collection, having. That's the ego soul, that identity of stuff, that warehouse is the soul, an illusion, a made-up thing that actually no longer exists because it's past. By now, it's all changed. Atoms have moved, molecules are lost, things evaporate, things degrade. Because things are not in and of themselves thingness, they are suchness. They are like collections of energies, but they are not static, a collection of energy. It's hard to define with words, isn't it? We can experience it immediately with our Butsudan and our mandala, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, which once again, I remind you, should be the only thought in your mind when you're chanting to your Gohanzen, to your mind. You're training your mind. Hey, wake up. Hey, look at the magnificent process of life here. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. That's where I want my mind to be, in that Buddha-ness, in that realization. That's liberating. It changes your whole life condition, and you radiate that life condition, that difference, as you course through the world. Congratulations. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take a moment. Just click on a couple things. If the notifications help you, by all means, you'll be notified, of course. Just like the audio podcast, do the same thing. You'll get a notification. New podcast. Everything on this channel, on the podcast, on the website, in the bookstore, the mandala store, everything's dedicated to this practice, right? You won't find anything else there. No car parts, no, right? It's all about making this practice solid for us. So thank you. Thank you for your determination, your conviction, your continued effort. It is bearing results. I promise you. Even if it's not immediate in your face and you're struggling, the results are there. They will express. You will become aware of them. That's your proof. Don't ever forget how much you've evolved through your practice. We get lazy sometimes and we take for granted. And we stop, and then suddenly old things that haven't happened for a long time start to happen again, and we go, oh, crap. I know what to do. It's kind of annoying. I know what to do. Need to get my butt in front of my Butsudan again. And as soon as you restart, everything gets back to wonder and amazingness. And you think, why did I ever stop? This is so simple. Right? Take a moment out of your rush of every day trying to get more, and just relax into some daimoku. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. You wouldn't deny yourself food for very long before you'd have to have sustenance, right? It's like that. All right, I'll let you go. Again, Deeply appreciate your participation, your practice. That's what brought you here, and I deeply respect that. Take care of your health. Be kind to yourself. And I'll see you in the next one, all right? Bye for now.